our next speaker. Hopefully you had some good times to talk with each other, meet some people at lunch. I see some familiar faces and some that are not. So hopefully you're meeting each other and we're able to talk to our sponsors. Thanks again to our sponsors for helping us. You know, we can sort of do meetings without sponsors, but they're never very nice and they're hard to publicize. So we really need sponsors to have successful meetings. Both MFA and the likes of Extension, it really helps us. And you guys have, the sponsors have great contacts. So helps us get people in the room and we're glad to have you. Our next speaker this afternoon is with SDSU. She has been with SDSU Extension just a year now. And this is Dr. Patricia Villamignana, doing my best. And I've actually never been able to meet her in person. So it was nice. We were able to connect and talk a little bit. She's our dairy specialist. And so she works with Extension and also does some research. And being just a year in, you probably haven't done a ton of the research yet, but I'm sure it's coming. It takes a long time to get funded and get projects moving and that kind of thing. But Patricia has been great. I've worked with her over email. I know I've heard many great things. I'm excited to hear her speak today. Her background, I just learned a little bit about her. She's originally, well, you were born here, but grew up in Venezuela, right? And she's been here in the States since 2019. She's been a full professor though for all of her adult life. Worked at the University of Idaho.
Yes.
Is that okay? University of Idaho. I knew it was Idaho, but I wasn't sure which school. An animal science role as a professor there before she came to SDSU a year ago as our dairy specialist. And her background, she grew up on a dairy, and her background is basically animal science, dairy science. So excited to learn from you today.
Okay. So I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to Sarah and Chelsea for inviting me to participate here in this Forage meeting. But I'm not going to talk about Forage, so I'm going to talk about other elements of your dairy system that can affect the sustainability of the dairy farms. Okay, as Sarah said, I am a trainer veterinarian, come from a dairy family. So I'm going to do my best today to show a resume of all the elements in sustainability at your dairy farms. So the big challenge, but at the same time, the opportunity that has the dairy farms here in South Dakota is sustainability, okay? To try to keep your farms economically and biologically viable, okay? And that means that you should approach high quality milk products with less resources, maximizing the well-being not only of you by yourself, the producers, but the dairy employees and the animals. So that means that with fewer input, you can produce more milk, okay? And that what make a system more sustainable. So we are supporting the three legs of that sustainable system. So less environmental impact, more social responsibility with economic success, okay? So, and if you see there are many elements of these three legs that can be common for the other ones, but more important than that, in the area where the three legs of that sustainable system confluent is the precision livestock in the farm. So the bringing the precision livestock to the farm give you economical investment, because with the precision ag, you can improve health, reproduction, increase the performance of your farm, and in the same way that impacts the social responsibility. Okay. If we have to talk about each of the legs, I don't know if this bother you more. The microphone, with mic, it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. So if we have to talk a little bit of each of that leg of the sustainable system, I'm going to start with the social impact, because probably the dairy team at SDSU is the area where we work hard from 8 years ago. And it's not only the employee management, the trainings, not only in the language of the majority of our dairy employees, but to support the farmers to troubleshoot different issues, production issues at the farm. And the social impact not only involves the employee management, but the animal welfare too. So nowadays, consumers not only drive by the quality of the milk, but how we treat animals, or that situation is the one that we are going to confront in a few days, years. And you know more than anyone, we are farmers. I come from a family farm too, that your work is 24/7. It's a very stressful work, different kind of problems that you have to manage. In the way that we can keep that issues control, the sustainable and viability of the dairy system is going to be safe, in a safe way. So, and there is so many studies that try to address the effect of that emotional, affective situation of the farm employees, and how that affect the performance of the dairy cows. And we know how the knowledge, the skills of our dairy employees affect the benefit, the profitability of the dairy operations. And we work with that trainings at the level of the farm, our milking schools, that we are so happy when we work at the farm and the employees response. And we saw how the quality of the milk, for example, only seeing the value of somatic cell after 8 months of trainings in a farm, one training and follow-ups, we see how the employees are more engaged with the procedures that they daily task at the milking parlor. So that means that trying to detect the deficit, the problems at the dairy parlor with the characteristic of each farm in particular, or each employee in particular, we can improve the profitability of the dairy operations. And in the first figure with the 3 pillars of the sustainability, we said that probably there are elements that are common for more than one pillar, and this can be a perfect example, the robotic milking system. The adoption of the milking system come from probably, you can tell me more, you can tell me better, from trying to improve the lifestyle of the producers, but at the same time, try to solve the labor cost, the labor problems. So come from the social sustainability, but for the side of the economic sustainability too. So both things have a huge impact in profitability, okay? But probably, as this researcher from Minnesota said to us a point, the impact of this robotic system in the profitability of the farms come from a more intensive use of the milking system. But for sure that more research is needed to compare the traditional parlor with this system relating with the economic sustainability, how the difference in size of that farms or the different management in each farm affect the economics of this robotic milking system. And if we talk about that leg of economic sustainability, we can see easily that at the level of the farm, we have to look for efficiency, minimize the risk, maximize the returns. And in this graph, it's easy to see the impact that has a dairy cow in comparison with the rest of animals that we can have here in South Dakota. And it's obvious the expansion, the explosion of the dairy industry here in South Dakota. The numbers talk by themselves. So, but it's not only here in South Dakota. It's expected that the consumption of dairy products increase in the next decades. And this high volume, we only going to cover it at the level of the farm with modernization, a specialization inside our farms. That means, for example, that we need to look for new tools to improve the productivity of our dairy farms. And the monitoring our system is one of these perfect tools. Measure, having data from our system that give us the entire picture and give us better tools to take the next step to make improvement in our system. And genetics, another good technologies to put in, to use in our farm, obviously, is the selection, the genetic selection, that boost our system in different areas, not only in reproduction, but in health, okay, and obviously in milk yield, in milk production, okay. If I'm going more deep in that genetic tools, we can see some good research around the world. These researchers in Germany that try to look for cows that are more efficient in the feeding consumption, that produce less amount of methane with the same amount of feeding. That can be a direct breeding approach, but for the moment, they look for the perfect phenotype for that. We can go by indirect approach, increasing the longevity of the cows and the fertility of that cows, okay? But for example, the researchers of Cornell have some contradictory results with the longevity of the cows. You can discuss about that. If we improve the pregnancy rate, we reduce the cooling rate, we are going to have more older cows in our herds, in our farms. So this researcher from Cornell said that that is not an option, that way of having more old cows inside our herd goes in a contrary direction with the improving welfare and in the increasing the milk per cow. And we know that the average of lactation of our cows here in US is around 2.5, 2.8 lactations. So it's hard to, and with our knowledge about physiology, lactation physiology, we know that the cows arrive to the top of their production at the third, fifth lactation. So that means that we have some interval to improve longevity from that 2.5, 2.8 to 3 or more lactations. So, there are a lot of effort to try to make genetic selection for the improvement of the heat behavior. If we select cows that show a strong heat behavior, we can improve the rate of insemination, the pregnancy rate, okay? And in that way, we can use less hormones, and in that way, we improve the economical sustainability and social sustainability of the farm, because we are going to use less people in making this heat detection and the use of the hormones. But it's not only that area of heat detection in the reproduction side. If we use the genomic data available in the different areas of reproduction, the sire fertility, if we work with the prediction of the daughter's pregnancy rate, and for me, the most important, the genomic around the early embryo mortality, we can improve the reproductive performance of our cows, and that obviously impact the profitability of our farms. There are some things in breeding and genetic that for you is something that you manage perfectly, as the use of the sex semen and the use of beef semen and beef embryos. So that improve the welfare of the male dairy calves. No? And I saw that in all the surveys that I received from the repro management at the South Dakota dairy farms. So that professor, the researcher from Florida, is making economical models to demonstrate how the benefits of use that beef semen in our dairy farms. And continue by that side of the embryo production, in vitro embryo production, people from Brazil, researchers from Brazil and California, we know that we can optimize the profitability of cows using embryos, only seeing the numbers of offspring that we can obtain for each cow by this in vitro embryo production system, around 40 offspring per year, in contrast with the 8 to 10 offspring that we can obtain per cow with artificial insemination. Interesting is that Resilient Dairy Genome Project that started in Canada, but that involved like 35 countries, researchers from different parts, different continents, that they try to create a new index, new genetic index that include traits that are involved feeding efficiency. And not only that, health and the repro characteristic, the reproduction characteristic. Another good thing for me is that are not the researcher alone inside their labs, but that in that project, the producers are included. So are part of that Resilient Dairy Genome Project. And we name how the bringing the Precision Act to the farm can be of help for the producers. And that is another area that you manage very well, that you are accustomed to that. So not only in the reproduction area with the heat detection, but with in the area of the animal welfare, we know that with that monitors, we can detect disease early before we see any sign. A good example is the mastitis. We can detect mastitis early. Conductivity, somatic cell by individual teeth, no? And you know that mastitis is the disease that cause a lot of impact in your economy. So calving detection, they describe the use of videos to help the nutritionist to see the feed intake, only for the topography of the feeding. So many areas that we can play with these sensors, no? And obviously, try to manage the labor shortage, the high turnover of employees. This is an example that probably you are so common to see the activity pattern of an animal to detect estrus behavior. So the dot line is the average of the activity of this animal in the last 10 years. The bars are intervals of 2 hours, 2 consecutive bars surpassing the dot line give the sign of heat for that cow. And you can compare a real estrus with a, I don't know if I can point here, with a false estrus here, okay? And with our knowledge in physiology, we can detect the real one from the false one, no? But not only the intensity of the estrus, but the duration of the estrus. That is very important for the moment of the insemination. And the cyclicity of the cow too. It's beautiful to see. Okay, but what we do with all that data that this sensor sent to us, and it's in this point where the artificial intelligence and the machine learning come to the play. The producer need data, confident data, and need to manage that data to put together all that data and obtain the important info to take decision and make the next step. Okay, and we know that we can train the computers to make predictions, no, for future performance and to take decision for the future and based of that. The machine make association in between different variables, different measurements that we give to that computer. And one example is fertility. We can improve the prediction of fertility because we can put together info data come from different sets, for not only the repro data, but the body condition, the environmental measures, the milk composition, all that set of data together can make better prediction of the fertility, and that give us more capacity to take good decisions. Okay? When we arrive to that point, probably we can talk about the problems that the producer are managing with this artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, different platforms has so many data, but that platforms are not interconnected. And we know by statistics that the more data that we put together, the more accurate of that data, and we can make more progress quickly if we connect all that platforms. No? And obviously here comes probably the question about who is the owner of that data. No? But instead of that, I hope that the idea that if I put the data for the use of the dairy industry, we make progress quickly. There is so many research out there using these precision technologies in this last year that I think that we need to incorporate that precision technologies in our dairy farms. With that, probably the take-home ideas. I can resume the take-home ideas in these 3 boxes, that the dairy operations are influenced by environmental and social sustainability as farmers work and contribute to their local economy. The 3 legs of the sustainable system: environment, social responsibility, and success economy. That the herd management need to reduce the number of non-productive animals through improve the animal and the herd fertility. That is a good approach to reduce emission and increase the dairy profitability. and talking about the precision livestock at the farm, monitoring production, reproduction, behavior, we can improve the sustainability of our production system, our dairy system. With that, I only with thanks for being here, for giving me the opportunity. I hope that you can make some kind of discussion with this idea here. That can be good for me.
Any questions?
Yeah, you were saying about that, the cow needs to be 5 years old basically before she optimizes her production. But she has barely paid for her raising at 2.5 lactations. So, the dairy farmer has paid, I don't know what, $3,000 for raising that young animal. Then they're leaving at 2.5 lactations. Are they actually, making that farmer any money?
So it's very hard because you see how then at the third, fifth lactation, the production increase. So for sure that my thoughts is that if we make some improvement by the genetic selection in longevity, the milk yield is going to increase but these people probably, these researchers probably are talking about another range of longevity, or if we are talking here in US, that probably in Europe, the longevity is, so the age of the cows are high. So probably then you are going to have problem with the welfare, no more health troubles, everything, no, with the metabolism of calcium, no, and everything. So really, probably when you talk about longevity, you have to be very aware where you are located, no? Because probably here we have a space to improve the longevity and stay in a safe area. And for sure, no? The more you maintain your cow, you pay your heifer development and start to be more profitable, no? It's, I don't know, but that is a good point for discussion when we read about that research of the people of Cornell, no? I don't know, it's good to hear the ideas of the people here at the room about the longevity of the cows. For the other side, probably that can touch the genetic selection. If we thought that if you continue with your genetic improvement, your newborn, your female, for sure is going to be a better cow than the one that has 3 lactation, 5 lactation. So you have to put more elements in that equation, no?
Any other questions?